Nygel,
Yes.
what's up, man?
How you doing?
Good, good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Can't complain.
Good. So, I wanted to do this interview with you. On my channel, I've been doing a lot of interviews, and it's called Life Under the Influence.
Yes.
And it's really about living under the influence of whatever, and you're a godly man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it that way, a spiritual man.
Try to be.
Trying to be.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you a little bit more about that. I want to learn a little bit about who you are.
Yeah.
And what do you got going on current, these days, and maybe kind of ask you some philosophical questions, if you're up to it.
Yeah.
And go from there. So, can you tell us where you're from originally?
Okay, so originally I was born in Violin, New Jersey. That's a story by itself. But I went to school in Willingboro, elementary school in Willingboro, till about 2009, 2010. And then after that, moved to Delran, finished my high school year out of there, graduated from Delran High at 2019. So that's just a little background. But I would say I'm originally from Willingboro, I guess. That makes sense. But yeah, like I said, I was born in Violin, moved to Willingboro, and from there, I finished out in Delran. Yeah.
What was your childhood like growing up?
My childhood, growing up, I gotta say, before I say anything, it was amazing. I always had food, always had clothes, always had shoes. So I was always, all of my needs were met. My childhood was very interesting. I'm adopted. So that, I could say that, I can't say that it played a big role in my life. It began to start, I want to use my words wisely, I started understanding that I was adopted later on when I started becoming more knowledgeable and more aware, just by scenery, if that makes sense. So my mother and my grandmother, my adoptive parents, they adopted me when I was maybe 17 months, maybe. And from there, it's just been history. So from that, it kind of, I really want to use my words wisely because it wasn't a bad thing. But growing up, like I said, my scenery was very different, being raised by two ladies. You know what I'm saying? Nowadays, being raised by a lady is very common. You see what I'm saying? And it was my brother and I, so we were raised by my grandmother and my mother. But they always loved us, they always nurtured us. But growing up, I want to say just 4, 5, 6 years ago, I started realizing that I had abandonment issues. So not knowing until then that I had abandonment issues, I started being aware. I started, the phone lets you know a lot of stuff, right? You got the internet, it starts letting you know the things that you're not, the things that you do have, the things that you don't have, who you really are, trying to find my identity, even in that, but not knowing that I was adopted then. See what I'm saying? So throughout that time, even in middle school, knowing that I'm always different, you know what I'm saying? Even in high school, intermediate school rather, I was always different. Never could fit in. I used to try to fit myself in, right? And my biggest errors in school was finding love in all of the wrong places. That goes back to me not knowing that I had abandonment issues then at such a young age. But now since I started understanding it, And when my parents, because they never hid it from me. They never hid it from me. But going through that process and going through those years and going through those stages of knowing that I am adopted, I'm like, okay, so now I got to do some research. And then I started figuring out, you got abandonment issues. When I started realizing that I looked for love in all of the wrong places. Because my thing was loving the hurt, right? Loving those ones that were hurt, loving those ones that didn't feel love or didn't have love because they went through the same thing I went through if it wasn't the same exact thing as far as being adopted. But they probably didn't have their father. Your father walked out on them, right? Their father just forsook them. You know what I'm saying? And my father, he just wasn't there, So that kind of at a 2-year era of just making all the wrong decisions in that moment. It really started when I was 13, just by hanging out with the wrong crowd. Because, that it's really weird how one person that should have had the obligation to love you, right, just walked out on you, and now you're literally trying to fit in, or you're trying to tweak who you are with other people or within other people so they can give you validation of who you are because that main person wasn't capable to give you validation. You know what I'm saying? So I want to say that happened for about 3 to 4 years maybe, to try to understand who I was and knowing that I had abandonment issues and everything, and then also learning how to say, it is what it is. So that was my whole childhood. And also I can't leave going to church. Went to church every Sunday. My mom was in the choir. My mama played the drums. Grandmother was, she was a missionary, she say. I'm laughing because my grandma don't go to church now, but God is good. We still love her. We love her to death. But yeah, going to church was instilled in me. God-fearing was instilled. In spite of all of that, being in the temple was a must. Loving God was a must. Showing up was a must. Going to hear my mom sing all around with the church, that was a must. Choir rehearsals, that was a must. The youth services, that was a must. So church was embedded in that. When my mom knew that one day, okay, he will have to find out that, he's adopted, right? And he does have, biological parents, you know what I'm saying? So, but let me just keep him in God so he knows if he ever gets to that moment where he feels like he's lost, he know how to come back to this temple and he knows how to build his faith back up. Why? Because me, as the adoptive mother, I instilled that in him. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
When did you learn that you were adopted?
Oh man, I want to say I was in elementary school in Willingboro. I went to Garfield East Elementary School. And my parents, they put my brother and I in the after-school care. And, it started like, because I was always curious. I was the guy, I was a class clown, right? But I always wanted to know everything. I wanted to know everything. And all the parents had a cutoff. Make sure you come and get your kids at 6. You don't get your kids at 6, you got to pay a fee, right? Because they want to go home, right? So the after school care was from 3 to 6. So I will always look at, our peers getting picked up, and they were always getting picked up by mommy and daddy. We always got picked up by, can I say it, lady and lady, right? So I'm like, I used to think, we don't got a dad, because women influences was always in my life. Why? Because of my mother. She had girlfriends, she had sisters, you know what I'm saying? Grandma had sisters, girlfriends, and she talked to her on the phone, So I'm like, this is not gonna say it's odd, I can't say it's strange, but I'm intrigued now, you know? And they always say when a child is smart, they pay attention, bro. They pay attention to everything. So I'm thinking, all right, so like what is this? So then I didn't know, I guess since I was so young, I didn't know how to pose the question to my parents. And they really started telling me in elementary school, like around 5, like from age 5 to 7 maybe. And as I started getting older, they started giving me bits and pieces of my adoption story. Yeah, so like elementary school is really when I believe I started finding out, and they started telling me, and they weren't afraid to tell me. They never did keep it from me. They wanted to make sure that when I started to get, when I started understanding certain things, that's when they started putting it out there, But they never held back. They never held back.
Knowing that, you had said something interesting earlier about how kind of going into your high school time, like so you already knew that information.
Yes.
And kind of going into your high school time, it was, I guess, you were trying to sort yourself out and trying to find yourself. So what kind of kid were you in high school?
The kind of kid, still spiritual, right? Still spiritual. Do you mean as far as still knowing that I was adopted?
Just how were you in general? Like you knew this.
Yeah.
Do you think that played a role in who you were during that time, or?
Okay. Yes, it did. The role that it played in my life, in my high school career, going to high school, sometimes I never did dwell on it. I never did focus on it because I was always taken care of, right? I was always taken care of. And God really blessed me because I look like my adoptive mother. That's the crazy part about it. So I never did have that moment to be like, dang, I'm really unwanted. Never had that moment, right? Never had that moment. But I did have that moment where, like I said, I felt abandoned, but never unwanted. You know what I'm saying? I never felt unwanted because I knew I had people that loved me around me. But in high school, I was always, like I said, I was always the one that loved people. I was always the one that was giving them an encouraging word, inspiring them, letting them know to keep pushing, letting them know that there still is hope, whatever you're going through. So that, it kind of changed the trajectory of how I looked at it, right? As far as I have to say my father, only because, and like I said, it's a long story, but I have united with my biological mother and the family. So we've been connected now since 2015 and 2016, one of those 2 years. And then, I had the option to meet my father, but then after that, it just fell downhill. So that's where that so-called abandonment thing comes in from right there. But it allowed me to change the trajectory of how I looked at my story and how I look at my life now. And for the future to know if I do have kids, I would never do what my father did to me. That's how I looked at it. And now, growing mature within my story, I know that every male is not a bad person. You see what I'm saying? I've learned that because I'm a ladies' man, right? Just due to the fact that I had lady influences in my life. So I could sit down and have a conversation in front of women. And it's crazy because just 2 days ago, for real, I was at my aunt's house and all the guys were inside in the man cave, right? I'm sitting out there with my aunts, right? Then the dude, yo, bro. Now, it doesn't take away that I'm not tough. I'm tough all day. Try me if you want to. You feel me? But it just let me know, go inside, talk to the fellas. And now I'm starting to, because we have a men huddle at church now, and I'm starting to go to that, right? I'm starting to go to the men house. Because, man, before, man, I used to push men away. Literally. No conversation with men. No. I used to think, man, how can you tell me something? And the main guy that should have been in my life, you know what I'm saying? He wasn't there to, give me that stern voice, Hey, son, put your hand on that stove, it's gonna burn you. I didn't have that. You see what I'm saying? I didn't have, hey, listen, come here, let me fix your shoelace. You know what I'm saying? My father, he was never there to come to none of my, only one time he did. But throughout my whole high school, my school career, elementary, all of my life in school, I have never seen him at any functions. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of changed, it allowed me to change my trajectory of who I am and who I fit in with and how to still love people regardless, because to know that my father, he also been through the same thing that I've been through. So allowed me to understand, okay, because at first I was just like, yo, you don't do that to nobody. But not knowing until I sat down and had a conversation with my biological mom, she broke the side of the story down. I said, well, he also been through that. I'm sorry, not my biological mom, my stepmother, his wife. She broke it down and said, this was what he went through as well. So you can't teach nobody if you've never been taught nothing. So it kind of, growing up, it kind of made me almost like, it gave me closure to know, I can't hold this against you. Because he was my age when he had me. You feel me? I'm 23. What do you really know at 23? Especially as a young man. A lot of young men, my age, we don't know nothing. Not because we don't have a father, but we just don't know a lot. We think we do because the society tells you, yo, be strong, be tough. Don't cry. If you cry, you're a wuss. You know what I'm saying? If you cry, you're a punk. Women, they get it so easy. At a certain age, not all parents, but at a certain age as a young man, you got to be about that house. Your daughter, just stay in the house all she wants to. So it's very different. It's very different from a man, and especially when you've been through some things as a man. You know what I'm saying? I don't know that much. I think I do. So you got me being vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? You got me being vulnerable. But no, it's the truth though. Like, I don't know nothing. I tried to literally, even though, yes, my grandmother, my adopted parents, they loved me. They cultivated me to be the man that I am, to really have feelings, right? The main thing they drew out of me was to have feelings for others, right? Because women are emotional, right? If I could be honest, they are emotional. So they kind of, I'm a teddy bear inside, you know what I'm saying? So it's almost like, daggone. It's a beautiful story, but when you look at it, it's like, I would not have never detected that the Nygel Wells that everybody made me to be has gone through anything. I've always was asked in school, do you ever have a bad day? Heck yeah, sure, yeah. I'm having one right now, you just don't know. Because it goes back to that faith. God gave me that faith to be able to almost guide, not necessarily guide my way out of my feelings, but almost like better guide myself within the situation or the circumstance due to somebody else that doesn't have no faith. You know what I'm saying? So all of that, it kind of just, like I said, just being God-fearing, it kind of, that all played a huge role. God knew exactly what he was doing when he placed me in the hands of a mother, of adoptive parents that goes to church, that reads the word, that are embedded in church to instill that faith. Because literally, I wonder now, as I'm sitting here, where would I be if that faith wasn't instilled in me at such a young age, knowing that I was adopted, knowing that I had to go through abandonment issues. Where would I be? So I'm talking your ear off, ain't it?
I mean, it's very interesting because especially with the comment that you made about having a bad day.
Yeah.
You know, just knowing you in general, you're always upbeat, you're always,
Yeah,
you're always happy. And so a question that I would have for you is, when we're younger, right? You know, it's interesting how you're saying you're understanding things more now as you get older, right? If you read a story at 10 years old, and you read the same story at 15, and then you read the same story at 20, you look at it completely different because of your life experience. So growing up, for even people like myself, right, who was raised in the church, you come to a point where you have questions, right? And a lot of people will say, okay, you know, for example, if you're talking about God or the belief in God, people will say, well, these bad things are happening. And, you know, if God is real, then how would he allow that to happen, right? So with you knowing your story about, you know, being adopted and everything that entails, did you come to a point where you were questioning, you know, like, hey, you know, I believe in God, I believe God is good, but why has that happened to me? Now, as you're older, it kind of, the pieces maybe fall into place a little bit more and you'll understand more as you grow, but did you have that internal struggle coming up, especially being, you know, so entrenched in the church?
I would say I've always had questions when me, myself, because like I said, I always wanted to do it my way, you know, and sometimes I was somewhat rebellious to my parents. So I've always had the questions, God, why me when I put myself in it, right? I put myself in it because, like I said, I was rebelling against my parents, but it goes back to, son, let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm only saying that, I just want to make sure I'm clear. I'm only saying that because, again, I always had lady influences in my life. So even though they gave me advice, it was like, I'm hearing it from y'all way too much. I'm hearing the same thing all the time, you know? But I had those questions when, for instance, getting caught by the cops, right? Twice, back to back. I got caught 1 year, a year later, same thing. But the same thing. How in the world you get caught by the cops by doing the same thing? Literally, like seriously, acting crazy. But I'm like, God, why? Like, why? If I'm such of this gifted guy that you handpicked, everybody loves him, right? You say you got, you know, the Bible says, you know, he knows the plans for you and all that. If you know the plans for me, why is this happening? You know, when I would try to fit in, go out to parties, drink, it always went left. I could never just go out and have a good time. God, are you putting a curse on me? You know, like, what is happening, Lord? Like, I just want to have fun. But in those moments, I did question him. Like, why did you allow me to go this route and get in trouble? You know what I'm saying? Why can't I just go out and just really have fun? But my mom, she said something very profound. She said, Nygel, you have a short leash on you than everybody else does around you. She said, you may not understand what I'm saying now, but in due time you will. And I realized that I can't do the worldly things or the secular things that my peers do. Because everybody looks at Nygel as not so much the pastor, not so much the different guy, not so much of the one that could sing his face off, not that guy. I just look up to him. And I don't understand the walk that he has. I don't know what his belief is, but he seems to just have strong morals. I started understanding, and I found my answer when my mom said that, and started understanding why I really couldn't fit in, or why that did happen to me, why that adoption thing happened. Everybody goes through something to help somebody else. A lot of times we ask God, why are we going through this? And we never can understand why. We're going through it to help somebody else. And if it's not for our best friend, it could just be for the next generation that's behind us. You know what I'm saying? We go through things so God can use us to be able to stop that generational curse. We go through things so God can use us to be a blessing. Let's say God want to be able to use you to be somebody huge on a platform. You can't go up there and you don't got a testimony. You can't go up there if you never been through nothing. You know what I'm saying? You can't go up there if you never been a heroin, cocaine addict. You know, how can you encourage somebody you never been through that? You got to go through something. You got to go through some hard times, because what begins to happen, the Bible says, see, you see what I'm saying? The Bible says, for I reckon for the sufferings of this present time cannot be compared to the glory of God that will be revealed. In other words, however severe your moment of suffering is, that's going to be the greater the anointing, the greater impact that you're going to have on people. You got to go through something like me. And everybody's story is different. But that doesn't mean that your story is not effective or more effective or less effective than it is mine. Because God can handpick or place how much he wants you to be effective, just like that other person has been through something. So we all go through something. And at the end of the day, we also have to love and thank our past, because it's cultivating us and it's molding us for the future. That's how I found my answer. That's how those answers did come to me, and like, God, well, why? But later on, I started realizing, even though I'm like, man, God, literally, God, you ain't real. You know, going through high school, they teach you science, and man, I know you ain't real because you're not showing up for me now. You're not showing up for me now. I'm doing it, but not knowing that I was putting myself in those situations and those bad predicaments. Everything ain't always God, and everything ain't always the devil. It be you. People get me with that. Oh, God, I can't believe God. Sit down. God didn't have that happen to you. You allowed that to happen. And now you got to pay the cost. The Bible says you reap what you sow. So whatever you plant, that bad boy gonna sprout up. And it don't matter how many seeds you planted. If you planted 10, listen, it's coming for you. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I understood, and going back to the question, just like asking God, why me? Why did this situation happen to me? And then understanding later on that happens for a reason, you know?
Realizing that, do you ever feel a lot of pressure to be this person that people look at you as, you know, as that guy who they wonder, do you ever have a bad day? Do you know, is there pressure kind of living up to that standard, or always putting that, you know, that face on when you go out and you interact with people?
Man, you got me being vulnerable, Doc. Listen, I have to admit, man, every day is pressure. Every day, people, and I love everybody, but some, they have put that stamp on me to know, Nygel ain't gonna have a bad day. My owner's work at Chick-fil-A. My owner's wife, I'm sorry, she came to me. She said, Nygel, are you okay today? Are you good? You're always asking everybody else if they're good, always putting on a smile for somebody else, loving, embracing other people, but are you okay today? That joker messed me up, because I don't get it all the time. You know, and it's not to say I'm depressed. No, I just don't get it all the time because I made myself to be as if nothing's wrong. So it's not anybody else is doing it, it's me. You know, I don't necessarily want people asking, am I okay? Because it feels weird because I'm always the one asking them, are they okay? You know what I'm saying? I'm asking, yo, you good? You straight? I got a word for you. You know what I'm saying? God laid you on my mind and my heart. You good? You straight? You know? So every day is a pressure to not crack under pressure. You know what I'm saying? To not have those days where somebody's like, oh, he's having a bad day. It's almost like, to me, my inner thoughts makes me feel like I can't get away with having a bad day just because of how people view me and what I post. You know what I'm saying? So the only person, literally, that has literally, and shoot, I love my parents. I love my biological family. I love my brother. But the only person that has literally seen me vulnerable and naked is my girlfriend. Sees my flaws. I could be me around her. I ain't gotta put up no front. I ain't gotta be the preacher man. I ain't gotta lay hands, give a word. I'm just me. And with her, sometimes it's like, because I'm a goofball 24/7. Y'all think I'm a goofball now, but literally with her, I'm just a whole goofball. But she said, why are you like this? You know, but she loves me. She loves me. But it's almost like when I'm around her, it almost allows me to make up time that I didn't have in front of the paparazzi, in front of everybody. So with her, I'm comfortable. But it's difficult, though. Because you got somebody that, hey, I need you to pray for me. You know, I'm going through. Not once do they ask me, hey, yo, you good? You want me to pray for you? Literally, this is true. And not saying that everybody around me is awful. No, I'm not saying that. I know I got love around me. But people want me to pray for them. They'll never call and pick up and say, yo, can I pray for you? I just feel you. Let me just pray for you. Because again, me, I put on that thing of always giving. And then me, I reject when somebody wants to give something to me. So that's pretty deep to me.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's interesting you say that because that's a real feeling, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes the funny thing is you don't ask for that, right?
Yeah.
You don't always ask for that, and it gets placed on you.
Placed on me, man.
Right. And then you gotta uphold it. And it could be a lot.
Yeah.
You know, it could be a lot. It could be stressful. And it's not to say anything negative about anybody.
Yeah.
But it's true, you know. And then it is tough, right? Because then if somebody wants to give you something, you're so used to being the giver that you're not receiving, right? You got to learn to receive.
Got to learn to receive.
So I know that story. I know that feeling that you're talking about. Yeah. And for somebody like yourself, so you're really involved in the church.
Yeah.
And not only not just as a participant, but as a leader inside of the church. So how is that, especially being at a young age and, you know, having, you know, people older than you coming to you and looking for something, whatever that something is. How is that, you know, how is it dealing with that?
It's weird. It's funny that you say that because a guy from my church, he hosts these chat and chew nights, right? Open mic nights, rather. And I had my birthday celebration there just in March. And he got up on stage and he was like, man, I look up to you. Now, mind you, this cat is I want to say 35, 37. You know, one boy, and he just had another baby boy. 2 boys. Got his house, car, wife, go to church, teacher. Look up to me, man. You got more time on me than I do you, man. What you looking up to me for? You know what I'm saying? But I always get that. Like, what is it in me that will make a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old look up to me? Like, I could sit around my aunts and my uncles, right? And they say, yo, I feel like when I sit around you, I'm sitting in front of my elder. You got an old soul. I've gotten that. Literally, I've gotten that, man. You got an old soul. What's that saying? You're trapped in an old man's body or something like that. Got that. You just got, I know R&B. Listen, I could name you 10 R&B singers right now off the back of my hand. Because that's just, I don't know, man. They say, yo, you've been here before. You got a lot of wisdom. I always think if you had a lot of wisdom, you had to go through something to have wisdom. You've been here before. Older people, they always look up to me. I'm supposed to be rubbing off on them. They rub off on me. I'm like, what is this? So again, with the pressure, there it goes again with the pressure. And then I look at it now, okay, well, what if those older cats, they look at me and they're like, dang, if I would have just obeyed God's voice, I could have been like him. That could be the perspective they're coming from when they say that. You know what I'm saying? If I would have just listened, I could have been like this young man right here. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I look at it now. You know, that they see me young. You know, I'm going back to school in September. They see me doing all of these things. I just hosted a prayer night for the young people. You know what I'm saying? I'm working on an album right now. What else? I'm the ambassador for Chick-fil-A. You know, opportunities like this. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like if I would have just stayed true to myself at this young age and not do it on me, just speaking from their type of mindset, maybe I would have, not saying that they're not far, but would have gotten further than what I am now if I just really would have listened to the voice. And at the end of the day, sometimes you just don't have those guides to really guide you correctly. Because again, their parents probably been through something and they couldn't teach them something. So I think they just almost take that off of me to be like, yo, I should have did it like you, you know, so.
Maybe kind of living vicariously.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like the keyboardist at the church, he was like, yo, go back to school, man. Just do it for me. You know, because I didn't finish. You know, he want to go back now. You know, so it's like, where's my time? I got a family. Where's my time? And this is real talk. This is real talk. Where's my time at? We just talked earlier. Things is high. I ain't got time to go back to school right now. Like, he was, listen. And it's almost like even though I'm doing it for me, I feel like, yo, let me do it for these brothers too that are older than me. Because here's the funny part. I still respect them. You know they older than me. You know what I'm saying? So if I ever gone through something, yo, how did you get through this? Because even though they probably look at me from that perspective or I look up to him, but I could go to them because they probably fought some demons that I'm dealing with and I don't know how to fight them. So now I got to go to you to ask you for some guidance or some questions on how you've had to battle with your struggles. We may have the same struggles, you know what I'm saying? So they don't think I look up to them, but I do. You know what I'm saying? But they always, yo, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? So
was that hard for you to get to, like to get to that point? Because you mentioned how when you were growing up, for a while you pushed away men.
Yeah.
And so was it hard to get to a point where you're taking somebody's guidance and you're taking their advice, and specifically a man's advice, who might be older than you, but also kind of looks up to you? Like, did that put you in a weird situation? Or?
And the way it did, because again, I'm just in the last 2 to 3 years, I would say, I'm really just like embracing the men. Because all these men that said all that from the church, you feel me? My uncle as well, so it was like, okay, because at first I thought they was just joking. But no, they were, man, they were for real. Yo, I look up to you. You encourage me. How? Like, literally, I'm not doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously, like a side note, if I got to go out to sing or something like that, right? Or if I got to just make an appearance that somebody just want me to be there, yo, when you come into a room, you literally just shift the room, bro. And these are older people. You know what I'm saying? Even though they got glory on them or they have 1,000 degrees on them. You know what I'm saying? I'm still working to try to get my second one. You know what I'm saying? I've literally been in rooms with people that are uniquely inclined with so much of knowledge, a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom. But yet they look at little old me, yo, you really encourage me. I look up to you. Why? You got more money in the bank than I do. Why? But it's not all about that. Spiritual now is just the light that dwells inside of me. That's all that is. It's not that I came in and I look nice. It's not, literally, it's not that I came in and I floored everybody with my voice. That's nice. That's good. It's okay. But it's him. Let the light so shine. It's a glow because of him that's on me. He has wisdom. So he gives me the wisdom to be able to pour out wisdom. That's where I believe that is, and that comes from. Even though it's difficult, I'm like, man, I didn't do nothing to you. Because and I can say I'm very humbled in my way. It's not me. It's not a Nygel thing. It's a God thing. When like I said, I just got finished doing a prayer night with the young people. Nygel, I'm so proud of you. You did this. I didn't do nothing. He did this. He did this.
I feel you. I just showed up.
Yeah, I just showed up so he can use me. That's all I did. I was obedient to just show up.
Right.
That's it. However he would, listen. In that moment, if God didn't want to use me and use an individual within the crowd and allow them to take the mic, God have at it. I just showed up. I didn't put this on for me. I put it on so God can show. I listened to him. I want you to do this for the young people. And that's what happened. And God literally showed up. He blew our minds, That's why I show up to things.
With that being said, how do you see your future, showing up? What plans do you have? And what's got you excited about the future?
I gotta say, this album, man, this album that I'm working on, we are almost done. The album, and I had to sing out, I wanna say Saturday, this past Saturday. And it was a prophet, he was there. As y'all know, I go to church, so church all the time. But the young man, he said, he was my age too, believe it or not. He said, things is happening. And which I know is just about me staying content and being right. Staying content and being right within him and making sure that I do it correctly. Because one mistake can mess everything up. And that one mistake ain't got to be a God thing. It's a you thing. Do you not know how many people don't really go so far because they made one little mistake? Because they just messed everything. Now, mind you, the promise is still there. Promise, but you messed it up. You know what I'm saying? You messed it up. So me, I'm an entertainer. I want to be on stage, man. As I said, this album, I'm excited about this album. God is really pushing me into ministry. Not having a church necessarily. I think I'm trying to run away from it. I don't know. Because people, I'm telling you, man, people, they always need a word from me, man. It's crazy. So what I see myself doing is traveling and ministering in song and also ministering the gospel. You know, ministering, preaching, and everything, evangelism around the nation. Mainly for young people, to let them know that there is hope, like I said before, and to let them know that, you know, to love Jesus, it's cool to love Jesus. You know, you ain't got to be all sanctified and have the hymnal in the back of the pew and everything. Get down, just love Jesus because he loves you. So, but no, that's why I see me at a next, I want to say, next 2 to 3 years, traveling and doing it for him, really, and doing things like this. You know, this whole thing, this right here is just only a glimpse of what I'm about to get ready to ascend in, literally. Because you gotta go through that turbulence level before you can fully take off. I'm just at the turbulence level right now.
Okay.
You know?
I like that.
Right? I'm just at the turbulence level right now, and I'm a full send up, bro. I'm telling you.
I like that.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
So, you know, I get that you're interested in, or that's where you're looking to go, and you really had an interesting story, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of those things that you shared that I had no clue of.
Yeah.
And I don't know if, you know, how many people do have a clue about that.
Crazy, man.
So what word or what kind of, you know, encouragement or advice could you give somebody who might find themselves in that type of situation where maybe they are having abandonment issues, maybe they are kind of questioning who they are as a person and their identity, and maybe trying to have a, you know, it might be hard for them to fit in. And maybe they don't have an anchor like the church or a family around them who's, you know, super supportive.
Okay. I'm not going to speak, I'm going to speak general. I would say if you're going through something like that, or you feel as if you are, talk to somebody. If it's a counselor, if it's a therapist, talk to somebody. I did. Even though I love God, he heard my cry, all that, I had to talk to somebody. And I hope that would help somebody, because life just be lifing. You lose yourself, you know what I'm saying? And don't be afraid if you feel that you are going through something. Don't be afraid to ask the questions within your household. Is there a reason why I feel like this? Is it a root of why this happened, or why I feel like an outcast? Is it a root to something? Because everything has to go back to something. Everything has to go back to something. So don't be afraid to ask those questions if you are unsure. And for somebody that does feel outcasted or does feel different, it's okay to be different. It's fine to be different. You are unique in your own way. You're beautiful, you're handsome, you're smart, you're valuable, you're wanted just like God made you to be. Don't never try to think that you have to fit in to please other people. Because trust me, I've learned the hard way. Try to fit in to think I wanted, but in all reality, everybody just laughed at me. They didn't laugh with me, they laughed at me. Because they knew I would make them laugh. You know what I'm saying? When you're around, don't be around a whole lot of fools. Because they'll make you into a fool. You know what I'm saying? So know what you're interested in, know what you like, and be the best version of you. Because nobody can ever compare or compete with the best you that you are.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Telling you, man.
And that you know, I'm glad you're able to share that from a place of experience. And what could you say to those who feel like they're in the situation that you're in at times where you have to be the one to always have a good day? Because there's a lot of people in that situation where, you know, it always seems like, you know, fun and a good time and you're always smiling. You are always checking on people who, you know, or put it this way, when it seems like you got it all together, nobody bothers to check in on you because they're like, oh, you got it. He's straight. He's good.
Yeah.
So what do you say to people like that who are in those situations where they're the one who's, you know, the one lifting everybody else up?
I would say keep your phone on Do Not Disturb and go to a universe that nobody has been before. No, I'm joking. No. I would say take care of yourself. Take care of yourself first for you before you reach out. In other words, when you wake up in the morning and you feel the urge to check on somebody, let that somebody be you. Check on you first when you wake up. Before you send the first call out or the first message out, make sure that your mind is sane. Make sure that your emotions are intact. Make sure that your feelings, make sure that you are good first. Before you wake up in the morning and you feel like you got to reach out to you. Call you. Hello, is this Nygel speaking? How are you doing? I'm telling you, check up on you. Love you first. Love you first before you think you have to put on, as my aunt would say, a persona. Check on you first. Don't put on no act when you know you're not good. And here's the thing, it's okay not being okay. You can't always walk around happy. You can't always be on 100. You can't be able to live life if you don't have feelings, if you don't have wave of feelings. That's what life is about. You gotta be happy. You gotta be angry. You gotta be mad. You gotta be frustrated. You gotta be like, you gotta have those moments where you cry. You have to. You gotta be happy. You gotta be glad. You gotta be all of those things in order for you to be able to navigate your way through life's struggles. You can't, if you happy all the time, when a crazy thing hits your life, how you gonna operate in that? You gonna be happy about it? No. You may not know how to be, you may not be able to, what's the word I'm looking for? You may not be able to know how to be sad or angry in a sad or angry situation because you are always happy. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? So check on you first. Check on you. If you have a journal, write some things down in your journal to get some things off your mind. If, you know, like I said, if you need to talk to somebody, a therapist, talk to them first before you start reaching out. Because truth be told, those therapists have their therapy sessions as well. And that's a fact. I'm telling you, talk to those people. But most importantly, before you talk to you first before you talk to anybody else. Talk to you, reach out to you, call you, love you first before you're able to be a great Samaritan. Okay? Seriously. So that's the advice I would give you. Check up on you first. Talk to somebody.
Well, with that being said, I want to say Thank you.
Indeed.
For coming by. Thanks for taking the time to share your story.
Absolutely.
It was really interesting. I didn't know a lot of those things about you, and it's, you know, it's good to know that we all have to try.
Yeah.
Right? Regardless of whether you're looked at one way or another, you know, we're all trying, we're all doing our best.
Yeah.
Nothing good comes without struggle.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
right? And I just gotta say thank you for this opportunity. I meant to say it earlier. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for thinking of me. You know, seriously. And I said that before, so appreciate it.
All right, well, Nygel.
Yeah.
Appreciate you stopping by.
Indeed, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Thank you.